This morning's scripture passage comes from Luke chapter 10, verses 1 through 10. He entered Jericho and was passing through it. A man was there named Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was rich. He was trying to see who Jesus was, but on account of the crowd he could not, because he was short in stature. So he ran ahead and climbed a sycamore tree to see him, because he was going to pass that way. When Jesus came to the place, he looked up and said to him, "Zacchaeus, hurry and come down, for I must stay at your house today." So he hurried down and was happy to welcome him. All who saw it began to grumble and said, "He is gone to be the guest of one who is a sinner." Zacchaeus stood there and said to the Lord, "Look, half of my possessions, Lord, I will give to the poor. And if I have defrauded anyone of anything, I will pay back 4 times as much." Then Jesus said to him, "Today salvation has come to this house, because he too is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man came to seek out and save the lost." We understand.
To be honest, when Rich Hansen asked me to talk today, I couldn't help but wonder, why me? There are so many people in this church who give of their time so generously. Shouldn't they be up here and talk? Should they be the ones to be up here to talk? But then as I worked on this statement, I realized it's people like me who need to hear this. Let Dr. Hansen, he's a crafty one. It's difficult to sum up in just a few minutes what this church means to me. Thus, I have decided to present to you today, this is my life at Brookfield Congregational Church. Bear with me. 1984, I was 11. I'm counting on all of you being too tired to do the math and figure out my actual age. My family moved from Ohio to Brookfield, Wisconsin. We first attended Brookfield Congregational Church in fall of that year, after visiting several other churches that just didn't feel like the right fit. BCC felt like home immediately for all of us. 1988-ish, I was confirmed in this church, give or take a year. 1990, my significantly older sister was married in this church. 1991 to 2007, there was a little bit of a break for me as I moved away for undergraduate work, medical school, residency, and fellowship. And in 2007, I moved back to the Milwaukee area, and I married my oh-so-witty and handsome husband, Mark, and I were married in this church. And I became a mother for the first time, all in the same day. How's that for efficiency? I tell Luke he's my favorite because I didn't have to birth him. It's just a joke, Isabel and Max, just a joke. 2008, Mark officially became a member of this church. 2009, Isabel was baptized in this church on a beautiful winter day. 2010, Jean-Luc was baptized in this church. 2011, Max was baptized technically outside of this church as the service took place on the lawn on a beautiful summer day. At this point, there was a lull in major life events, as Mark and I, thankfully, did not have any more children. You know the saying, God doesn't give you more than you can handle. I'm not a huge fan of that saying, but it might be true in this case. And then in December 2008, my dad's funeral took place in this church, where we celebrated his life and laughed at his driving record. For those of you who weren't there to hear my roasting, eulogy of my dad, he hit more cars in our driveway alone than I'm guessing any of you have hit anywhere elsewhere ever. This is a true story. Ask my mom. She's a professional insurance claim expert. To say this church and the people in it are important to me is a ridiculous understatement. I have grown up here. I have been a confirmand, a very young maid of honor, a not-so-young bride, a proud mother times 3, and a grieving daughter. It is not the walls that make this place what it is. There are larger, fancier churches out there. We pass about 6 of them on our way from Wauwatosa to here every Sunday. Okay, not every Sunday. We do the best we can. The point is, the people are what make this church great. Look around you. If you have been here a while, you know what I mean. Serving others in a selfless way, even when it's not easy or convenient, is built into the fabric of Brookfield Congregational Church. In this crazy, crazy world that sometimes feels so full of anger, hate, and violence, this is a place to come every week to remember that people are inherently good, kind, and generous. I also have the honor to see this in my work as a medical oncologist. People ask me, why on earth would you want to do this for a living? I get it. The job description sounds grim. Telling people bad news, watching people suffer from side effects of their treatment or cancer, losing people you care about sometimes on a weekly basis. I'm not gonna lie, there are hard days. These are the days when Mark gives the kids the look, get out, save yourself, take cover. But then there are so many good days. Days of laughing with patients, hearing about their families, helping them feel better, connecting with them at the most vulnerable time in their life. And yes, doing your best to help them leave this world with comfort and dignity. I leave work most days knowing I made a difference in someone's life. That's powerful stuff. It's the same kind of powerful stuff that happens every day here at Brookfield Congregational Church. Countless people volunteer their time to keep this church going by serving on committees or helping out with the service or singing in the choir. Countless people volunteer their time to help those less fortunate than we are through mission trips, Habitat for Humanity, food pantries, gleaning at the farmer's market, feeding people, and on and on. Countless people volunteer their time to help those in our own congregation who need it. When my dad started to decline last year, my mom received a long list of people from this church who were happy to help out and sit with my dad if she needed to get out. Mind you, this is when my dad was on 60 milligrams of prednisone, and he literally never stopped talking. 4 hours of constant conversation can be a lot. Just ask Jeannie Reichert. But seriously, the willingness of people of this church to give of themselves is remarkable. Sorry. It is the kind of stuff I want my kids to learn. This church teaches us that it is not gender, color of one's skin, sexual orientation, political party, or current dose of prednisone that matters. It is the person who matters. This church not only talks the talk, but the people in it walk the walk. Dr. Artie Hurria was an international leader in my field of geriatric oncology. She brought the field of caring for older cancer patients to the forefront of the international agenda in oncology, which led to government agencies changing policy and increased funding for the research of older patients with cancer. Despite her fame, she always had time to mentor young physicians, nurturing the career of too many people to count. Artie, who was only a few years older than I, tragically lost her life in a car accident last year. She left a legacy behind her and a group of people who are committed to continuing the work she started, most of whom were her mentees. Why am I talking about this now? As I was reflecting on our goal for increasing mission work in the church, Artie's mantra, which was famous in our field, kept running through my mind. She said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. If you want to go far, go together. Together, we can make a huge difference. We are all busy. We are all tired. Good Lord, am I tired? There's not enough makeup in the world. But if each one of us can just give a little bit more, we can accomplish great things. After reflecting on what this church means to me, I'm inspired to walk the walk a little bit more. The more of us walking, the bigger impact we will have. So let's get on with it. Let's create a stampede of compassion together. Thank you.
This morning's text is a wonderful story of Zacchaeus. You may have remembered learning it in Sunday school. There's a little song about Zacchaeus being a wee little man. We hear from the story that he has two things going against him. The first, he is a tax collector. Now, tax collectors at that time were a little different than working for the IRS. Tax collectors were the ones who collected the taxation for the Roman Empire from the people. And the way that they made their money was by taking more than they needed to take, a commission for themselves. They were notorious for having taken more than really was appropriate. And so they weren't liked in the community. Not only is Zacchaeus a tax collector, he is a chief collector and rich on top of it. So surely everybody made assumptions that Zacchaeus made his money in a not very appropriate way at the expense of the other people in his community. And second, he was short. Not that there's anything wrong with that. but it makes it hard for you when you are trying to get a glimpse of Jesus coming through your town. So Zacchaeus climbs a tree to see Jesus, and when Jesus sees Zacchaeus, he invites him down and Jesus invites himself to stay at Zacchaeus' house that night, much to the dismay of the crowd. But Zacchaeus comes down, and as he comes down, he recounts all the ways in which he will make up for his sin. He'll give generously of his money and his possessions to the poor. In getting this new vantage point, Zacchaeus is saved by experiencing the love of one who calls him by name in front of a community that had already labeled him a sinner. In naming him, Jesus also changes the crowd's perspective. Jesus' inclusive love can move one from selfishness to charity, from grumbling to awe, and from cast out to being called by name. This story is a testament to the power of love to heal, to change. And we've all had our Zacchaeus moments when loving kindness changed our perspective, when we're known fully, seen for who we are, sins and all, and still loved and forgiven. That transforms us. The invitation is to allow God's love to change us so that we too can show the fruits of our faithfulness, just like Zacchaeus. This morning we celebrate just how powerful and transformative that love is as we celebrate All Saints Sunday. It's a day on which we remember all the saints, known and unknown, who have gone before us to heaven. Since we're not a tradition that recognizes saints with a capital S, we recognize those who have been laid to rest through the ministry of this church, and we provide a space to honor and remember all those we have lost in this last year. It's a beautiful tradition that is less solemn than hopeful. Why do we celebrate such a day? Because we know the love and grace of God. And we know that that love and grace prevails. We know that life in this world is not the end. We know that our loved ones are at peace and with God. And how do we know that? Well, that's faith. Faith is trust in those stories we share each morning here on the Sunday mornings and here each week in church. Those stories that remind us that we are God's beloved and that God sees us and knows us by name and promises us life beyond this world. What we celebrate today is not loss, but love. We celebrate that love remains no matter what. In a moment, we're going to move to our All Saints remembrance and celebration, and we do so with a trust in the promises of God. Then we will share communion at this table, which reminds us of God's presence that is always with us. Today, salvation has come to this house, and we celebrate with saints living and gone on. Come, Holy Spirit, and bless our celebration. Amen.